there isn't really any downtime. They've got to cover so much. You got to be so in the moment and
Mm.
completely connected to what you're doing, or you mess it up for everybody. So those guys, like guys and gals and EastEnders and Coronation Street and Emmerdale and all these different shows, I mean, they work extremely hard and they're very convincing, very convincing.
What's the casting process like on your films? So do you accept self-tapes or do you do in-person auditions? And what's it
I
like?
do. I am, obviously commercially, if you're working on something, if you have a lead role, you need an actor or actress who has a career, because
Mm,
that's just marketing. That just
mm,
helps you sell your film on the back end. When the distributors are going, "Who's in your film?" Oh yeah, I can
mm,
stick them on the DVD cover and we can get it out to the world. And so, unfortunately, with marketing, it's rarely to do with the strength of your story. It's more about
mm,
what faces can we put on the poster, right? So what I always try to do is find the best person I can who has a profile to play a particular role.
mm,
But then it's open season. I just want the best people to play roles, whether they've never acted before in their life.
mm.
So I'm not a big fan of the whole being told by a casting director, these are the people out there available and they're the people you should see. I prefer to have people send me stuff and then for me to decide could they be right for that role, because otherwise how are the new stars of tomorrow going to be discovered if you don't actually give them a chance,
It's
you know
true. Yeah, that's so
so
true. I think a big part of that as well is understanding your branding.
yeah,
And
yeah,
something that we always forget is the importance of branding. Even if you own your own business, that is your brand. If you're an
yeah,
actor, you have a brand. You might not
yeah,
have worked that out yet, and that's okay.
sure,
But when you start to identify with who you are, then you start to see the roles that you're getting as well and
yeah,
how you
yeah,
want to brand yourself. And I've started to do that myself. And
yeah,
that's a really important part in order to start to have that strength in your career, I think.
yeah, very important, very important. So I suppose that from the point of view of an actor is to understand the kind of roles you think you're suitable for. But then you've got people like Andrea Riseborough, this amazing actress who can do anything. I mean, most of the roles when you see you don't even know it's her. And then you look at the
Mm-hmm.
cast and you go, that was Andrea Riseborough yet again, being completely different and completely brilliant at everything she does. So I think the ability to be chameleon like is important for actors, and not to just look at themselves as, oh, I'm the hero. Forget
Mm-hmm.
that. There are only so many hero roles. Now go for the darker, dirtier roles. Like, Brad Pitt, of course, was always the beautiful, young male hero. But then he started going, this is really annoying. So
Mm-hmm.
he got a cross eye and he did 12 Monkeys with Terry Gilliam, and he looked crazy. He got a big nose for Snatch and all the
Mm-hmm.
tattoos and played the traveler and the Irish traveler, and he started doing roles where it was less about how pretty he was and more about his ability to inhabit a character. California, for example, where he played that hideous serial killer with Juliette Lewis, and again, but as he pointed out, like there's an amazing scene in that I've never forgotten where he's drinking and he just keeps pointing at the air like this when he's drinking. And he said he just remembered seeing people, drunk people in his
Mm-hmm.
hometown, for some reason doing that. Like it was like, yeah, we're there, we made it, we're at the top. And he thought, what a great little moment to throw in. And it is like you don't forget it. But now that he's 60 and he's still a very handsome guy, but he's less a pretty boy and more a good looking man, he doesn't care about any of that. Now he can be himself. He can jump into roles. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And he does them with a confidence and a warmth and conviction that I don't think was present in his early work because he
Mm-hmm.
was too aware of how people saw him as a,
I
as a,
think,
as a man, you know?
yeah, I think as you're starting out though, you go on that journey, don't you? Then
Yeah,
you evolve, and also building because he's built that credibility. You
yeah,
have to get to that point in order to be like, oh, I'd like to. It's like Margot Robbie, isn't it? She
yeah,
wanted to be in certain roles that she never got cast in.
sure.
I can't remember what role she was in recently, but she was a convict. She a refuge. Trying to think now.
Remember, she did the one about the ice skater. She was brilliant in
Yeah,
that.
she was really
I
good in
toilet.
that. She did
Yeah,
another film recently, and I'm trying to remember what it was. But she wanted to play different roles that were outside of the ones that she'd usually get cast in, because there is such a thing as casting type,
of
or
course
you
there is.
might get cast as this role, but you want to step outside, and that's absolutely fine. But I think being able to play to your, bringing your personality and using that as a way to as a starting point, I think is a great idea.
So, and as you said, people with who have longevity in the industry, they get to the point where they can make those choices
Mm,
because people are going to hire them anyway.
yeah.
I mean, let's face it, if Brad Pitt says, "Oh, I'd like to be in your movie," then it doesn't matter what role he plays. You're
Mm,
still going to be able to market the movie because Brad Pitt is in, even if it's and Brad Pitt as, you're still going to be able to market your movie because of that. So he could go, "Well, I want to play a leprechaun," sitting there in the
yeah.
corner of the field,
Oh, yeah.
smoking me pipe,
Yeah.
and you'll give him that role because he's earned the right to do that,
Yes.
in a sense,
Well, I
but
think definitely when you get to that point, isn't it? It's just
yeah,
finding a place of when you're starting out, how can you play to your strengths? And
sure,
then you can look at maybe how can I move forward from that
yeah.
to be able to see like when you start to build that credibility, because you do, yeah, have to get to that point. Um, so in terms of what do you think actors should bring to a role? So we talked about certain things that they should do in terms of fact finding, understanding emotions. Is there anything else that you can say about that in terms of what do you think they should bring to a role?
I think the first
Being
thing they need to do
believable.
is to learn the lines backwards. I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
important because learn the lines inside out so you never have to think about them again.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'll give them the confidence then to be able to build upon that and go, okay, I know the lines. As if somebody asked me a question, I could
Mm-hmm.
give an organic answer. Once
Yeah.
that fear is gone, it's like Anthony Hopkins said when he does a cold reading in a room, he's the worst actor in the room because it's like I haven't found the character. He said he usually doesn't find the character until he finds their shoes or the coat they're going to wear. Like when he did Remains of the
Mm-hmm.
Day, and he was interviewed about that process, where they said to him, like, how do you play a butler? And he goes, well, I mean, you stand very straight and you defer to your betters. And they were like, surely it's more complicated than that. And he goes, well, know your lines. If you know your lines and then you find the clothes of the character and you put them on and you look in the mirror and you know you've found the person. He said that gives you the freedom just to be them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a
Yeah.
butler and you look like a butler and you're standing very straight and you're, moving slowly and you're deferring to the people that employ you, you are that butler. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. You got to learn your lines, then get rid of that, and then start looking into all these different things that you feel would make the character work. It could be as simple as, they've done research and they've decided that a particular person in their family history inspired where they are as the character now, and that they have that photograph folded up in their inside pocket that no one
Mm-hmm.
ever sees.
That's a
But
little
to
thing, isn't
them,
it? Yeah.
yeah, but to them, once it's in
Mm-hmm.
there, they're like, I am that character. This is my lifelong inspiration. And they're always there in my pocket. And that
Mm-hmm.
helps me now be this person. And they might
Yeah.
get in a panic if they can't find it. They can't
Yeah.
film without it. They're like, oh, Jesus, who's taking my picture?
Yeah, I
Um,
like that. I mean, I think that's a great little thing, isn't it? Something that it has, that character has as a quirk, or
yeah.
something where they're holding on to a family photograph, or could be just something that they do, or that yeah they have,
It could
or
be a
they
limp. It
do.
could be a slight limp, for example.
Mm,
Even just a slight movement that's a little bit wrong. Like
mm,
when Dustin Hoffman played Ratso Rizzo in Midnight Cowboy, and he had that staggered limp all the time. And it's amazing. He's trying to keep up with the 6'3" John Voight, and staggering along. Hey, I'm walking here. I'm walking here. Um, but that was, and he had a slight lisp as well in it, Dustin Hoffman. So he said, now, what am I going to bring to this character? I'm going to be
mm,
unshaven. I'm going to be greasy. I'm not going to wash that off. And I'm going to smell bad. Which is the kind of thing Hoffman would do. And the actors would be like, seriously, dude, can you not just act? But it worked for
mm,
him. Like, how many times he's been Oscar nominated or won awards and been hailed as one of the greats? because he found a process that works for him. It wouldn't necessarily work for everybody, but it works for him.
Mm.
So I think that's all it is. Find the process that allows you to really become that character and convince at all times. I mean, obviously, you also have extremes like Daniel Day-Lewis, who will never not be that character. You know,
Mm.
that if you're in the room with Daniel Day-Lewis on a movie, you're not with Daniel Day-Lewis. You're with
That
who you are.
character.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that comes down to Meisner, doesn't it? You become
yeah.
the character and you don't get out of the character.